And we are live. Good Sunday evening, folks. Welcome to Saving Money Unapologetically with your host, PG. That is me. Well, as you can see, folks, on the screen, we're going to talk about this evening shrinkflation. Shrinkflation. I am sure that most of my listeners, if not all of my listeners, and even the folks that happen on to my channel, have heard in the recent years, in the recent months, the word shrinkflation. This is a public service announcement to you from Saving Money Unapologetically, which is my YouTube channel. Beware of shrinkflation. What is shrinkflation, you ask? Shrinkflation is the practice of reducing the size of a product or the quantity of a product, all while keeping that product in the consumer market at the same price that it was before. Meaning, if normally you get 5 to 6 bananas in a bunch at your local supermarkets, and all of a sudden, a week or two later, you go back into that same supermarket, and instead of the 5 to 6 bananas in a bunch, you're now only getting 3 to 4 bananas in the bunch for the same 69 cents per pound. Okay? So you're getting less for the same price. Less for the same price. You keep the price the same and you provide the consumer less. Now, a more detailed explanation of that is basically shrinkflation is a strategy, folks, that has been used and is still being used currently to address the rising production cost of certain products without directly increasing the prices. So we shrink the size of the product and we keep the price to the consumer the same, whereby you're paying out on the production end, as far as a company or corporation is concerned, you're paying out a little more. But if we shrink the size of the product that we're selling or products that we're selling and still charge the same price, then basically we're still coming out a winner. Now, when I say we, I'm not talking about we, the consumer. I'm talking about we, the conglomerate or the corporation or the big entity. Not us, the consumer. I would much rather them raise the price and keep the size of the product that we have been used to getting the same. And then let me decide whether or not it's going to be feasible for me to continue to buy those products or that particular product at the rate that I was purchasing it previously, such as perhaps every 2 weeks or bi-monthly. I may have to go monthly and not purchase it as often and not use as much of the product that I was basically freely using, such as perhaps dishwashing detergent or dishwashing soap. I was, maybe using a 50-ounce bottle every month. Well, perhaps I can cut down and use a 50-ounce bottle every 2 months and pay a higher price, but yet it will last me for 2 months instead of the 1 month. The most common examples, folks, that I can give you on shrinkflation within itself is if you think back the last time you visited a supermarket or store, or grocery store, convenience store, a neighborhood market or neighborhood food store, a farmer's market or what have you that sells extra things, look at or pay attention or think back to the size of the bags of chips. They have become smaller. The toilet paper and the paper towels have actually been shrunk down in size, diameter-wise. You get less sheets. The jumbo rolls of paper towels aren't quite as tall as they used to be, or meatier as they used to be. The cereal boxes that were multiple sizes, that were still good sizes to begin with, are now smaller in size, smaller in depth, smaller in width, smaller in height, and less product inside. All while maintaining the same price for less product. This is all while companies offset the rising costs of the raw materials, the increase in labor prices, the increase in transportation costs from the factories to the warehouses, to the stores, to the labor putting them on the shelves, to the consumer, us, coming in and purchasing from those retailers without alienating the consumers per se, who might be more sensitive to price increases. It's kind of like a fallacy. It's kind of like a deceptive practice, in my opinion. The impact that it has on the consumer is basically, it leads to we, the consumer, feeling that or knowing that we're getting less of the product, which by devalues the product somewhat for the money that we're paying out. And what happens is there's a decline in our consumer confidence, whereby it puts that company in the red zone or in front of a bullseye with a target on its back for us, the consumers, to say, hey, wait a minute, something's not right. For instance, in the photo that's on the screen now, is you see Skippy peanut butter, the extra crunchy. And previously, it was 18 ounces. Shrinkflation got a hold to it, and that jar is now a 16.3 ounce jar or less for the same price, which did, in fact, increase. Why did it increase, you say, PG? Why did it increase, you say, saving money unapologetically? Is due to the fact that climate change, the peanut crops are not turning out the amount of volumes that they once did. The sheer cost to operate the machinery, the sheer labor cost involved. That's why. The droughts that we have been having in areas of this nation as well as foreign nations. The record storms, the record amounts of flooding that we've been having from coast to coast here lately in the last several years has been a direct impact on farmers and on our domestic gross products that we rely on to be brought to our supermarkets, our farmers markets, and our big box stores. So yes, beware of shrinkflation. When you see this occurring on the products that you use most often or more frequently, my suggestion and the tip that I have for you would be when the jar of peanut butter gets deceptively smaller, but stays the same price. If you notice that, pivot to a brand that hasn't downsized yet. Pivot to another brand. Means back up, take a look on the shelf or the shelves, and try out another brand that has not gone down in size that you're willing to try, so that in the end, the result would be that you'll be able to transform your grocery shopping into actual savings, meaning you will get the same amount of product for what you had been paying previously, which that product would last you a little bit longer because you have more of the same product in the jar or in the container or in the bag or in the box or in the bottle than you would if you continue to purchase those products that have been accosted by shrinkflation. So beware. The word shrinkflation itself is basically a two-part word, not necessarily a compound word, but a portmanteau. Shrink and inflation is how that word was or is derived. Portmanteau is dual impact. The word shrinkflation was first used in 2013. Shrinkflation has been entered into the Merriam-Webster dictionary. Beware, folks. Beware. That's all I can say this evening about shrinkflation and what it means to us, the consumer, and how it came about and how it is basically rolling across the board throughout basically everything, even in fast food. We used to get 32-ounce drinks. Now the cups are 30 ounce, 28 ounces and less. A large fry is no longer that extra big, extra large fry. It's basically a medium fry now. The hamburgers that used to be really, really huge are not anymore, but are being sold at slightly higher cost, but for less patty on the bun. You got more bread than you have bun. More bread than you have meat. Shrinkflation. So beware where you can cut costs, where you can make a pivot in the grocery stores, what you can do to counteract. It still can be done. It may take you a moment, but it can be done, and you still can transform grocery shopping into savings. That's all I have for this evening, folks, on shrinkflation. I wish you well, and I hope that each and every one of you has a fantastic upcoming week ahead. Bye now.